Like again, just that in my heart, in my mind, nothing audible, nothing. But in my heart, my mind, will you preach? And I keep spotting the nails, and I stop, and I'm like, how do you know you're called to preach? And I just go back to spotting nails. I went through it about 3 or 4 times, and the 4th time, 3rd time, whatever, I just stopped. I just sat down on the mud bucket in the middle of the room, and I said, God, if you want me to preach, I'll preach. So what did God say? He didn't say nothing. I answered his question. He said, will you preach? I said, God, if you want me to, I will. And it was done. I knew what God wanted me to do. I just knew. I knew what God wanted me to do. From that point on, I didn't know about pastoring. I didn't know if I was going to be a missionary. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I did have a burden to preach. I did have a burden as we went on in time to pastor. You know, I'd been preaching for a couple of years. I'd preach youth meetings. I would preach revivals in different churches and revival meetings. That's just special meetings. Normally would go all week long. And the more I preached, the more I wanted to pastor. And I'd been preaching for a couple of years, and the church asked me to come down and preach one Sunday morning for them. And I was excited because they didn't have a pastor, and I thought, hey, it may be an opportunity, maybe an opportunity. And so we go with our 3 or 4 little boys. I don't know if Ethan was born yet. Probably not. Maybe just 2 boys. But we got two little ones tagging along with us, and we go in, and it felt odd. Just going in the service, it just felt, I don't know, it just felt a little different. People didn't really say a whole lot. It's like everybody just sort of sat in their seats and looked at each other. And so they had me come, and I went up and I preached and enjoyed preaching, and we got done and I went out. And I found out that afternoon they'd had a really bad situation the Wednesday night before that actually had to call the law and escort the pastor off the grounds. It was bad. It was bad. He had done some really bad things, and it had all come to light. And I preached the next Sunday. And I'm like, that explains. My brother's like, they asked me to come back a week later just to meet with the deacons and to sit down and talk about pastoring and those things. And so I'm sitting in there. I'm in my mid-20s, early 20s at this point, mid-20s. And there's probably 5 or 6 older men who were the deacons, leaders in the church sitting there. And, man, I'd like to pastor someday. I don't know if it's here, but, and one of them, man, I'd like to pastor someday. I don't know if it's here, but, and one of them asked me a question. And he said, Brother Moore, he said, can you tell me what a novice is? Of good